of the emerging writers of Scotland. So, your debut story collection was named as On the Edges of Vision, and it won the Solitaire Book of the Year award also. So, can you just talk a bit about the book for those who does not know, who have not read about your book?
It's a collection of very, very short stories, most of which are under 1,000 words, and they are about monsters and identity and strange myths and legends of Scotland.
And what is the deal about all these stories? Does it have some subject?
It's mostly just on the idea of monstrousness and what makes a person human, and the idea of what a monster is, and connecting that with things that are human as well. I always think that a monster is just another type of person that we're just trying to imagine ways of being. So it's really all stories around that idea.
Saying that most of the language you use in your poems are lyrical. So, what do you have to say about that?
I really focus on the language more than the plots. I think it's a way of filling the shape of the story in a different way. I think that it's a different type of engine, and it interests me more than writing on a plot-based way.
When did you feel that the writer in you emerged?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think when I was very small, I used to write little books of stories when I was really young, maybe 8 or 9. And I was always encouraged to read a lot when I was little. I didn't think it was a profession that I could do until much, much later. And I studied it at university, and then I thought, okay, I can try and make a go of this.
How good was your response to your first 2 novels?
It was good. The first novel, unfortunately, came out when the publisher went bankrupt.
Wow.
So it's out of print at the moment. And my second novel is actually just coming next year.
So you have published only 1 novel so far?
1 novel, yeah, and 2 short story collections,
Okay.
and a really small book of microfictions.
How did your writing process evolve?
Ooh. I think at first I didn't know what I was doing at all, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote without any idea of where to stop or how to make it better. And so now I have more control over that, and I enjoy the editing process more, and I think that's important.
At what age did you realize that you have a writer in you?
Oh, I think seriously, probably when I was about 22, 24, and I was in Australia studying for a creative writing masters, and then I thought, yeah, I can do this.
So from then on, you have been writing
Mm-hmm.
on a daily basis?
Most days, sometimes I go for periods where I have other things. I think you have to have periods of time when you are fallow like a field and you're just taking in energy, you're reading, going to art galleries, being exposed to different cultural things, and then you can start writing again. And then I try and write every day.
So which is your favorite place to write?
I like to write on my bed because I like to write lying down. I think it's a way of kind of dreaming the stories into being.
Like when you go about a story, do you fix the characters well in advance, or later it just develops from the plot?
It just develops, even from the sentences, from the language. I can kind of tell what the character is going to be. It's very spontaneous.
So when you begin a story, do you conceive the end also, or it just comes from the process?
Usually from the process. Every now and then I'll get very lucky and I'll have a dream where I dream a story, and then I go, oh, okay, I'll try and write this one.
Are you an author who interacts greatly with your readers?
Ooh, I think I like doing it. I love being at public events and getting to see readers and getting to understand how they responded to a story. And I am on Twitter a lot, so sometimes people speak to me there about my work or about their work, and I enjoy that a lot, yeah.
Okay. How much do you value your readers' suggestions or readers' feelings in social media?
I value it a lot, actually, and I know people say you shouldn't read reviews, but I often go on Goodreads and see how people are responding to my stories and if my meaning was clear, because the reader creates the meaning a lot, and it's something that I'm very nervous about. I want to make sure that people are enjoying their experience of reading. A good deal of importance, because writing is always a kind of conversation, and you always want to have people speak back to you a little bit, to feel like your work is reaching people in different ways, adding to the conversation. I'm pretty active. I'm on Twitter most days. I use it to procrastinate when I'm writing.
What is the biggest challenge any writer faces?
Ooh.
Maybe in your country?
I think the biggest challenge is economic, because being a writer is not very well paid. The average writer's salary is something like less than £11,000, which isn't enough to live on. So every writer, most writers, not J.K. Rowling, for example, but most writers have to have another job. So you have to earn money to support your work and find time once you've been working as well.
In India, there is a rise in intolerance that is emerging. How do you think, like, the freedom of expression?
I'm not really sure. I think it's something that's really important to address, that people can speak freely and be exposed to different ideas, because sometimes in the modern world, online, for example, you can find your own bubble, but you don't interact with other people. And then you don't know if your ideas are really shared with other people, if they're really right. So I think that's a challenge to avoid, becoming closed in a way that's strange, because the internet is so open. That's what I think about these days.
Voice of dissent. That is the great challenge all writers face. So can you compare it from your country?
Differences of opinions, I think people get very vocal about it in the UK. I'm not really sure what the situation is in India. This is my first time here. But I do know that in the UK, differences of opinion are very addressed, and people they speak about it a lot online, and sometimes maybe too much, and they need to just relax with each other. Yeah.
Who are your favorite authors and your favorite books?
Ooh, I think it changes a lot, but I always love Virginia Woolf and Toni Morrison. Really love their works. They're very poetic, and Toni Morrison in particular is kind of gothic, but also very human. I like, best of all, Beloved by Toni Morrison and To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I also really enjoy Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. I read a lot of poetry as well, and I really love the poetry of Louise Gluck. The Wild Iris in particular is my favourite collection of hers.
Any Indian writers that you would like to mention?
My mind's going blank.
Okay.
I need to, that's why it's good I'm here, so I can be exposed to more Indian writers.
Which is the last book you have read?
I read Dracula.
Bram Stoker's.
Yeah.
Now only you're reading it.
Yeah, I hadn't read it before. I tried to read it when I was 10, and the librarian didn't let me take the book out, so I put it off until now.
Okay. Coming back to the Mathrubhumi's third edition of the Literary Festival, how do you feel attending the festival for the first time?
I'm so excited. I really am very glad to be invited here. I also want to attend loads of events because it looks like it's going to be so exciting as a means of exposure to new ideas and new writers. Yeah.
Do you plan to meet more writers in the festival?
Absolutely. I think that's the point of festivals. It brings together all these ideas.